All right, let's just think about this for a second. You have a guy who's a master con artist, right? He steals hundreds of millions of dollars, serves what, 22 months in a pretty cushy prison, and then Hollywood makes a blockbuster movie about him. It's wild. So let's dive in. How on earth did Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, pull this off? How did he scam America and then get rich all over again just by telling everyone how he did it?
In this quote, this really gets to the heart of it all. It's his whole defense, in his own words. You see, it's not just a defense, it's kind of like an accusation aimed back at everyone else. He's basically saying, yeah, I was greedy, but hey, who isn't? He's not saying he's flawed, he's saying he was just better at the game we're all playing. It's a fascinating and, honestly, a pretty chilling way to justify everything that followed.
So that's the big question we're going to tackle here. How does a guy who scammed millions of people become a pop culture hero? This story isn't just about financial fraud. Nope. It's about fame, it's about our culture, and what happens when that line between villain and celebrity just completely disappears.
All right, Section 1. To really get a handle on the wolf, you've got to go way back, way before Wall Street. We need to see how the salesman was made, really, forged in this mix of insane ambition and total failure.
You know, the talent was there right from the get-go. I mean, this guy, as a teenager in Queens, he's not just selling Italian ices, he's building a little empire on the beach, pulling in 20 grand in one summer. That's incredible. But then, his first real business after college, this door-to-door meat and seafood thing, total disaster. It just blew up too fast and the whole thing came crashing down.
In this moment, this is a huge turning point. Picture this. He actually enrolls in dental school. Day one, the dean gets up and says, if you're here to get rich, you're in the wrong profession. For Belfort, that wasn't just some casual advice. No, that was a deal breaker. He literally stood up and walked right out. Why? Because for him, getting rich wasn't just a goal. It was the only thing that mattered.
So, out of the ashes of that failed meat business, he finds his superpower. I mean, the stakes are literally melting, deliveries are a mess, the whole product is garbage, but then it hits him. He could still sell it. And that lesson was everything. He realized you don't need a great product if you've got a killer pitch. The sale was the product.
Okay, Section 2. So now he's got this new philosophy, right? He knows his real talent. He just needed a bigger playground with a much, much bigger payout. So naturally, he heads straight for Wall Street.
So he gets this entry-level gig at a legit firm, but his timing is terrible. It's right before the Black Monday crash in '87. The whole market just implodes and boom, he's fired. But for a guy like Belfort, that's not a setback, it's an opening. He ends up stumbling into the world of penny stocks, which are, let's be honest, the absolute junk drawer of the financial world. But they had this one magical thing going for them, a 50% commission. Think about that. You sell 4 grand a stock, you make 2 grand. The math was just too good to ignore.
And this right here, this was the engine behind the whole scam. It's called the pump and dump. It's a classic con, really. Step 1, you buy a ton of worthless stock for next to nothing. Step 2, you create a bunch of hype and lies to pump up the price. And Step 3, you dump all your shares on unsuspecting investors, walk away rich, and leave them holding the bag.
And man, he turned this into a science. Here's the Stratton playbook. First, accumulate. His firm, Stratton Oakmont, would secretly buy up massive blocks of some cheap garbage stock. Second, inflate. He'd unleash his army of salesmen, the Strattonites, to get on the phones and create this insane hype and urgency, driving the price sky high. And finally, dump. The second that price peaked, they'd sell every single share they owned, the stock would crash to zero, and everyone else would be wiped out. It was simple, totally brutal, and it worked like a charm.
And check out the setup. The name, Stratton Oakmont, sounds so prestigious, right? So old money. The reality, it was a chaotic boiler room in a Long Island strip mall. And his recruits? They weren't from the Ivy League. They were bartenders, college dropouts, local hustlers. He didn't want people with experience. He thought they had bad habits. What he wanted was pure, raw hunger.
Then, he armed them with his secret weapon, a sales system he called straight-line persuasion. It was basically a psychological pressure cooker. It was a script, a system designed to just steamroll any objection, create this insane urgency, and lead a person straight from hello to yes before they even had a second to breathe or think. He wasn't just hiring salesmen, he was manufacturing closing machines.
All right, section 3. So with this whole machine in place, the money didn't just start flowing in. It was a tidal wave, an absolute tsunami of cash that built an empire of just mind-blowing, jaw-dropping excess.
I mean, the scale of this thing was just nuts. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars from sham IPOs, mansions, helicopters, a whole fleet of Lamborghinis. He had a 67-foot yacht that was basically a floating vault filled with cash, drugs, and something like $2 million in jewelry. This wasn't just about being rich. This was a performance. It was designed to be as loud and in your face as humanly possible.
And the office itself, that was the main stage. It was part cult, part circus. You had phones just screaming off the hook, traders yelling, cash bonuses literally being tossed across the sales floor. It was this insane pressure cooker of greed and testosterone, all fueled by drugs and this total unwavering devotion to Belfort, who was the ringmaster of the whole crazy show.
But here's the thing. An empire that's built on a foundation of lies and fueled by that much chaos, it just can't last. It was all too loud, the fraud was too obvious, the fall was absolutely inevitable.
So the walls start closing in. By '94, the SEC is flagging a whole bunch of suspicious Stratton activity. Then in '95, an FBI agent named Gregory Coleman starts quietly digging, tracking the money, pulling records. But the real turning point, that's when Belfort's own guys, his loyal soldiers, start to flip and cooperate with the feds to save their own skin. And then, in October '96, federal agents raid the offices. It was the beginning of the end.
And while the company was imploding from the outside, Belfort himself was just completely unraveling. He's funneling millions into Swiss bank accounts. His drug use is totally out of control. He crashes his Ferrari while he's high on Quaaludes. And get this, he sinks his own multi-million-dollar yacht by insisting on sailing it into a giant storm and has to be rescued by the Italian Navy. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. His real life was way more chaotic than any movie.
So the party's over. The firm's gone, the scam has collapsed. But you have to remember who we're dealing with. For a guy who believes the sale is everything, the end of one pitch is just the beginning of the next one. And it turns out, Jordan Belfort's greatest sale was still ahead of him.
Now this part is maybe the most unbelievable piece of the entire story. He's facing like 30 years in prison. So what does he do? He does what he always does. He sells. He sells out his partners, his friends, everybody. He convinces the government that he's the key to bringing everyone else down. And his reward? Just 22 months in a minimum security facility where he's playing tennis. Meanwhile, you have thousands of his victims who lost everything. Their life savings, their retirement, their homes, everything.
And this is where it gets truly bizarre. In prison, his cellmate is none other than Tommy Chong. Yeah, from Cheech and Chong. So Belfort is telling him all these wild stories, and Chong just looks at him and says, "Dude, you have to write this down." And that's the light bulb moment. Belfort realizes his life of crime isn't just a rap sheet. It's content. It's a story. It's a brand new product he can sell.
And let's not forget about the money. The court ordered him to pay back $110 million to his victims. $110 million. And to this day, even after making millions from the book, the movie, his speaking gigs, only a tiny fraction of that has actually been repaid. The people he ruined are still waiting, while he's out there getting rich off the story of how he did it. Think about it. He turned his fraud into a career. He didn't just write a book. He created a brand. The Wolf of Wall Street isn't really an apology, is it? It's more like a victory lap that's just pretending to be a cautionary tale. The movie makes him a global celebrity, and now he's a motivational speaker, a sales coach, using his criminal past as his biggest selling point. He rebranded himself from felon to anti-hero, and people are lining up to pay for it.
And that brings us right back to where we started. The scammer became a star. He didn't just get away with the crime, he sold us the story of the crime, and we made it a bestseller. He became a symbol, not of the dangers of greed, but of the thrill of it. So the last question, well, it isn't really about Jordan Belfort anymore, is it? It's about us. What does our applause say about what we really value?